My husband brought Shinchingi back to the mansion, demanding I vacate the position of primary wife for her. Holding a divorce decree in my hands, I walked out the gates of the Yu prince's residence with my maiden dowry. The world knows this story. 2 years ago, Prince Yu Li Jianin knelt outside the Hall of Diligent Governance for 3 days and nights, pleading for the hand of the Chancellor's beloved daughter, Shinchingi. He was refused. That year, at the New Year banquet, I fell head over heels for the Yu prince and boldly declared, "Your Majesty, grant me a husband of my choice." The emperor agreed, issuing an imperial decree that fulfilled my heart's desire. I entered the Yu prince's residence with a dowry stretching 10 li. On our wedding night, after we drank the ceremonial wine, Li Jianin swept his sleeves and left, leaving me alone in the chamber all night. After our divorce, when I saw Li Jianin again, he humbly begged me to return to him. I pulled out the divorce decree and flung it at his face. "Li Jianin, you said we severed all ties and would never meet again in this life, wasn't that your own words? My name is Meng Shiyue. My father is Meng Guan, the most distinguished and valiant general of the current dynasty. My mother is Ji Yunshu, a renowned scholar lady in the capital. As their cherished daughter, I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth. Whatever I desired, as long as my gaze lingered upon it for a moment, it would be mine. My parents were perpetually away at war, yet each homecoming brought me a mountain of novelty. Until my 7th year, when I discovered a military treatise among the gifts they brought. My mother's lessons in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting lost all meaning. My mind was consumed by that military text, driving away 7 tutors within 3 months. My mother sighed, all day long thinking about military manuals. What will become of this child's marriage prospects? My father slapped his thigh and laughed. Like father, like daughter. Who knows? Perhaps our Yuer will become a female general someday. Words were words. Laughter was laughter. My lessons in qin, chess, and painting were dismissed. Not only did my father insist I study calligraphy diligently and read widely, he also brought 2 martial arts masters from the barracks. Yuer, train diligently. With my parents off fighting at the frontier again, I followed my 2 masters through winter's bitter cold and summer's sweltering heat. Evenings were spent reading and practicing calligraphy. My days were utterly filled. In their spare moments, the masters would share tales from the barracks, stories of men once vibrant yet now fallen on the battlefield, of skies beyond the frontier far bluer than those over the capital, of lives rescued from the clutches of barbarian invaders. Yuer, your father is a great hero. Whenever those barbarians see the Meng banner, they're terrified, wailing and running away. Little me gasped, wow. My dad is so awesome. I want to be just like him when I grow up. A great hero. The masters clinked bowls together with smiles, to the future great hero Meng. When I was 10, the frontier was in peril. Barbarians from the north and Tartars from the west joined forces, launching a massive invasion. My father fought for 5 years, battling through injuries and illness, until he routed both armies. Terrified by his might, they sent envoys to our court pledging allegiance. The greatest hero of that campaign, my father, Meng Guan, returned lying in a carriage. "Father!" I wailed, startling my mother. She was both amused and exasperated. But before she could stop me, my father tossed a pillow from the carriage and bellowed, "You little brat! Your father's still alive. What the hell are you crying for?" My sobs halted as I carefully helped my mother down from the carriage. As for my father, several burly men had to lift him out. My mother whispered to me, "Your father isn't seriously hurt. He just took an arrow in the backside from the Hu invaders during the final battle." Being the thoughtful wife she was, she didn't mock my father openly during the journey home. Instead, she waited until we were back at the manor to laugh about it with me. By the time father had recovered enough from his backside injury to walk again, My coming-of-age ceremony was just around the corner. As the daughter of General Meng of Meng Pass, even though I rarely left the house, few knew my true appearance or character. Matchmakers from the capital nearly wore out the threshold of our home. Seizing the beautiful spring weather, I disguised myself as a man and ventured out daily to explore. Years of martial training had made me grow tall, easily matching the height of ordinary men. Combined with my father's features and the absence of pierced ears, few could discern my true gender. Wandering the capital, I witnessed several injustices. All those years studying military tactics hadn't been wasted. With a simple ruse, I exposed a spoiled young noble attempting to abduct a maiden. His own father caught him red-handed, and the family discipline rod snapped in two. When someone seized a prime shopfront, I hired a few ruffians to loiter there daily, no violence, just intimidation. Soon enough, the shop owner meekly returned the premises to its rightful owner. After resolving these injustices, I kept my deeds and fame hidden, continuing my wanderings through the capital. Days passed, and my mother presented me with portraits of several renowned handsome young men from near and far. My heart was set on martial arts training. I had no desire to marry. Hearing this, Mother silently rolled up the portraits and pulled me to sit beside her at the table. If it were possible, your father and I wouldn't want you to marry either. But such is the way of the world, harsh on women, lenient on men. Even for men, if they haven't married and had children by 20, they become the subject of gossip. Mother hopes you can marry into a good family, to have someone to rely on in your later years. I asked in confusion, Mother, couldn't I just join the army? My masters say I'm quite skilled now, becoming a junior general shouldn't be a problem. That was the first time I saw such deep worry in Mother's face. Do you know how difficult it is for a woman to become a general? Mother stroked my cheek. She brought out a thick stack of ledgers, laid them open on the table for me to see. These are the soldiers under your father's command. The silver needed for this month. Rations, clothing, bedding, horses, weapons, pots and pans, every conceivable expense, and many I couldn't even imagine, lay before me in perfect order. They resembled bottomless maws, baring their terrifying teeth at me. The court won't take responsibility for the soldiers under your command. If you want to be a general, you must ensure your men are fed, clothed, armed, and paid. Only then will they march with you. Why should they risk their lives for you? Aren't they flesh and blood? Weren't they born to mothers and raised by fathers? So you must also be strong, strong enough to lead them to victory, to help them rise in rank, amass wealth, and find wives. If you can deliver these things, they won't care whether their commander is male or female. Learning martial arts for a few years doesn't make one a general. You've never even set foot in a barracks. Don't even know which way the camp gates face. How could you lead troops into battle? It was like a bolt of lightning striking my mind. I understood. When father had recovered from his injuries and prepared to lead troops back to the frontier, Mother fell ill with morning sickness. The physician took her pulse and examined her closely. Madam is over 2 months pregnant. Long journeys are inadvisable, rest is required. My mother placed her hand on her belly, her face radiant with maternal light. She looked up at father. Husband, I cannot accompany you to the frontier this time. Take good care of yourself and don't drink too much. It's just as well, I can spend more time with you. Yes. You is a young lady now. It's time to start looking for a match. I glanced nervously to the side. Whatever scheme I was hatching, I couldn't let Mother find out. On the day the army departed the capital, I claimed menstrual discomfort and stayed in bed. Once father and mother left hand in hand, I retrieved the bundle I'd prepared long ago, scaled the wall with practiced ease, changed into my cloth armor in a secluded spot, and made my way to the new recruits' camp. Gee, sure. What took you so long? You kid! Hurry up. Roll call's about to start. Old Huang, the recruitment officer at the camp, bellowed. I quickened my pace and slipped into the ranks. Yes. I'd enlisted without telling my parents. My dream of following in Hua Mulan's footsteps didn't last long. Barely 300 miles outside the capital, my two masters caught me red-handed and dragged me straight to my father. Your mother sent me a message by carrier pigeon. She said you left her a note, Mother. I've joined the army. Don't worry about me. Father snorted coldly. Nonsense. Kneeling before him, I pleaded, Father. I truly wish to serve. You are a great general. How can I not aspire to be a minor commander myself? To do otherwise would dishonor you. My father laughed bitterly. Very well. Fight one of my soldiers. If you win, I'll let you do as you please. If you lose, you'll return home and marry properly. My two masters hesitated, exchanging a glance before deciding to let my father see for himself. Father summoned several junior officers from his command. Step forward and fight her. The victor gets 50 taels. Seeing how much I resembled father, they shoved and jostled until a strikingly handsome young officer stepped forward. Shin Chang, you go. Hit her hard, it won't matter. In less than 10 breaths, I had Shin Chang sprawled on the ground. The crowd fell silent. My father looked at me, then at Shin Chang on the floor, and casually pointed at another man. You. Fight her. 10 breaths later, another man lay on the ground, grimacing. Half an incense stick later, 7 young officers lay neatly in a row on the ground. I crouched nearby and grinned at my father. Father turned to the two masters. Why didn't you mention this earlier? The masters looked back. General, you never asked. I rubbed my hands excitedly. General, I won 7 matches. When can I get my 350 taels of silver? Stuffing a 50-tael silver note into my pocket, I strolled back to the new recruits' barracks, muttering all the way, Dad's so stingy. After a long trek to the border, my father transferred me to serve as his personal guard, assigning me a private room. After over half a month on the communal bunk, my nose was nearly numb from the stench of sweaty feet. But I'd forged deep bonds with the brothers in the new recruits' camp. It's worth noting that serving as my father's personal guard was no different from being on the front lines. The Hu tribes and Tartars feared my father, while my mother, nursing her pregnancy in the capital, had no confidants. In just a few days of duty by my father's side, I'd already intercepted several waves of amorous suitors. Some, seeing how much I resembled my father, even mistook me for his illegitimate son and secretly sent me beautiful women. Parallel to these beauty traps came covert assassination attempts. The most perilous incident involved a barbarian spy bribing a servant in our household to poison the wine my father habitually drank. During a meal, my father poured himself a bowl of wine. He took just one sip before collapsing at the table. Panicked, I pounded his stomach with my fists until he finally vomited the poisoned drink. My father's face turned ashen as he gripped my fist, his fierce eyes brimming with tears. I know you're anxious, he said, but don't rush. Find me a doctor first, one skilled in treating internal injuries. Go. 5 years of hard service at the frontier saw me rise from personal guard to deputy commander. The camp accepted me as his nephew or cousin. Coupled with my valor and distinguished service, no one questioned my promotions. That evening, father pulled me aside for drinks. You're 20 now. It's time to return home and marry. Your mother can't keep this hidden in the capital much longer. My father's hair had grown thick with gray, and he desperately wanted me to stay. He'd witnessed every ounce of my struggle and dedication these past years. I fear you'll regret it when you're old, he said. Regret that your mother and I never let you marry and bear children. Drunk as a skunk, he kept repeating, I fear you'll regret it. I picked up the wine jar and sat outside the tent to drink. Shin Chang sat beside me. You're returning to the capital? I set down the jar and replied casually, yes. I'm 20 now and still childless. My parents are anxious, urging me home to find a wife. Over the years, I'd built good relationships with these young officers, often sparring with them. Among them, Shin Chang was my closest friend. Shin Chang looked at me silently for a moment before suddenly speaking. I could marry you. Close call. I nearly choked on my drink, staring wide-eyed at him. What nonsense are you spouting? We're both men, how could you marry me? He leaned closer with a half-smile, taking my hand. Years of horseback riding and bow drawing had thickened the calluses on both our palms. Yet it was clear mine was a full size smaller than his. My face flushed hot. I jerked my hand free and glared at him. Shin Chang hooked his arm through mine. General Meng has no nephew your age. His only son, Meng Shijing, just turned 4 this year. Am I right, Meng Shiyue? I'd long braced for discovery, so I wasn't as flustered as he imagined. It was his identity, though, that my father had quietly revealed to me. Still, you can't compare to you. Shin Chang, the youngest son of the Chancellor. Have you been enjoying yourself at the frontier these past years? Shin Chang muttered under his breath. Well, we both kept our identities hidden from each other. That evens us out. He looked earnestly into my eyes. Shiyue, I truly want to marry you. If you're considering marriage, would you please consider me? Those eyes shimmered with a mesmerizing light, nearly swaying my resolve. I turned away, my voice cold. What nonsense are you spouting? I'm returning to the capital in a few days. Must you go? Marry me. We could stay here together forever. Wouldn't that be better? Shin Chang, you're being far too naive. My father, the Grand General of the nation. Your father, the right Chancellor whose influence spans the court and the realm. Do you truly believe the Emperor would permit our two families to unite in marriage? I smashed the wine jar, its fragrant liquid splashing across the floor. Shin Chang, young General Shin, stop it. I cannot marry you. On the day we returned to the capital, Shin Chang pressed a jade pendant shaped like a wine jar into my hand. Consider this an early congratulation on your wedding day. His eyes were red when he spoke, unable to bear the sight of his sorrow. I took the pendant and retreated to the carriage. The carriage clattered toward the capital as Shin Chang rode his horse behind, escorting me through one pass after another. Stop. I stood at the carriage door, waiting for Shin Chang to approach. He rode up before me, and I handed him a military treatise I had copied by hand. At parting, I lowered my gaze and smoothed the creases from his collar. Return now. No need to see me off further. Shin Chang did not follow me back. The carriage creaked and groaned as it gradually receded into the distance. I lifted the curtain. The figure on horseback grew smaller and smaller, fading into the distance. The daughter of the valiant general, who had spent 5 years recuperating at his suburban estate, had quietly returned to the capital. I kept father's words close. When discussing potential suitors with mother, we first ruled out the sons of high-ranking ministers. Then we excluded those whose families, according to mother's inquiries, had unsound morals, men full of ulterior motives, seeking to climb the social ladder. Truthfully, that left me with very few options. Rather than dwell on matters that weren't even on the horizon yet, I decided to spend more time playing with my little brother. My brother, Meng Shijing, was a lively child who took after our mother in appearance. Though only 4 years old, one could already foresee his extraordinary beauty when he grew up. I adore him and often lift him high in the air. Xiao Jing also adores his big sister, constantly trailing behind me, determined to follow my every move. That day, while accompanying Xiao Jing on an outing, I unexpectedly discovered a most suitable marriage candidate. As the carriage carrying Xiao Jing and me rolled through the streets, I overheard gossip. Have you heard? Prince Yu requested the hand of the Chancellor's beloved daughter. But the Emperor refused. I have. Prince Yu is truly devoted. He knelt outside the Hall of Diligent Governance for 3 days and nights. He fainted from exhaustion several times. Yet the Emperor still wouldn't consent. I recalled details about Prince Yu. He and the Emperor are full brothers, born of the same mother. After the Emperor ascended the throne, he was granted the title of Prince Yu, a largely ceremonial position. Prince Yu, Li Jianin, fell head over heels for the Chancellor's daughter, Xin Qingyi. The moment he saw her at 15, he pursued her relentlessly for years. Yet Xin Qingyi never consented to marry him. What tormented Li Jianin most was that his beloved elder brother, Li Jianyu, seemed to harbor special feelings for Xin Qingyi too, often taking her out to enjoy scenic trips. That's why he grew desperate, kneeling directly before his brother to beg for a royal marriage decree. His heart already belonged to another, meaning he wouldn't become emotionally entangled with me. His noble status meant I could leverage his name to get things done. His lack of real power made him even more perfect. If I wanted to do something secretly, he wouldn't need to know. No parents, but with wealth and property. A perfect match for an alliance. I quickly had someone take my younger brother and me back to the mansion. After discussing it with my mother, she pondered for a moment and decided that Prince Yu was actually a decent choice. Apart from his emotional issues, it was hard to find a young nobleman with better qualifications. After several exchanges of carrier pigeon letters between our parents, we quietly finalized the arrangement. At the New Year banquet, I sat obediently behind my parents and immediately spotted the man seated beside the Emperor, Li Jianin. My perfectly chosen husband sat there, pouring his own wine and drinking merrily. For the sake of my future happiness, it was time to put on a performance. Clang! I accidentally knocked over a wine cup. The crisp sound echoed as it rolled to the floor, drawing countless eyes. Your servant has been discourteous. I beg your Majesty's forgiveness. I knelt properly on the ground, my body trembling slightly. The Emperor raised his eyes to meet mine. Such panic, what is the cause? Blushing, I lifted my head and spoke boldly. I beg your Majesty to grant this humble maiden a suitable husband. The Emperor inquired with interest, Oh? Which young gentleman has captured your heart? I stole a glance at Li Jianin, my face flushing crimson as I declared aloud. This humble maiden fell deeply in love at first sight with His Royal Highness, the Prince of Yu. His Highness possesses a noble bearing and grace, like orchids and jade trees. To have seen such a handsome gentleman, Your Majesty, I would die without regret. The moment these words left my lips, everyone present was stunned. They looked at me, then at the Prince of Yu, who was equally speechless with shock. Whoa! Now things were getting interesting. The Emperor clapped his hands and roared with laughter. Excellent! 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 My brother, since Minister Meng's daughter has fallen for you at first sight, I shall act as matchmaker. Attendants, record this decree. There is now a virtuous lady of the Meng family, of dignified bearing and gentle disposition, suitable for marriage and household duties. Let her and Prince Yu select a date for their wedding, uniting our two families in matrimony. No one had anticipated such an outcome. After the palace banquet, Li Jianin, his face dark, had me brought to a side hall. Gritting his teeth, he spat, You want me to marry you? Dream on. I drew the freshly issued imperial decree from my sleeve. In that case, Your Highness the Prince of Yu intends to defy the Emperor's command? Li Jianin's expression froze. Though they were blood brothers, his elder brother's unyielding nature was no laughing matter. The decree had been issued, further argument was futile. I bowed my head in respect. If there is nothing further, I shall take my leave. Your Highness the Prince of Yu. Stop right there. His impotent rage roared behind me. I quickened my pace and left the palace grounds. The imperial household moved swiftly. Within 2 months, Prince Yu's mansion was adorned with festive lanterns and decorations, ready to welcome its new mistress. Dressed in a phoenix crown and bridal robes, fan in hand, I stepped into the flower-decorated palanquin. Just as I'd anticipated, Prince Yu treated me with utter coldness, refusing even to kick the sedan chair. He casually tossed the silk ribbon to me, then yanked me out of the palanquin. The wedding ceremony felt like a farce. The groom refused to perform the ritual bows with me. He dragged me to the wedding hall, shoved a large rooster into my hands, and then vanished without a trace. If he wouldn't give me face, I wouldn't give him any either. I yanked off my veil and placed it over the rooster's head. I bowed before the ancestral tablets enshrined in Prince Yu's mansion, then entered the bridal chamber with a cold expression, clutching the rooster. 2 hours later, an enraged Li Jianin was dragged back by attendants. They forced him to drink the wedding wine with me. After finishing the wine, Li Jianin tossed the cup aside and stormed out. On my wedding night, I spent the entire night alone in the bridal chamber. I wasn't idle for a moment, just reconciling the Yu prince's household accounts took me 2 hours. To make up for dragging Li Jianin into this mess, I decided to be a little kinder to him. But his usual indifference to my daily attentions, offering extra blankets or meals, remained unchanged. Meng Shiyue, stop doing these things. My heart belongs only to ye. No matter what you do, I could never love you. I offered no response, continuing to manage the affairs of the mansion and attend various banquets, cultivating the image of a virtuous wife. Privately, leveraging the mansion's prestige, I opened numerous shops across the capital. My maternal family's caravans shuttled goods between the frontier and the city, steadily swelling my personal coffers. Simultaneously, I used the silver I earned to cultivate connections with the wives of the ministers of revenue and war. Needless to say, securing military funds for my father became far easier than before. I understood well that to lead troops effectively and win battles, logistics must never falter. Before Li Jianin, I always wore that serene, cloudless expression. He was seldom home, often taking silver from the accounts room only to go drinking and carousing. We paid little attention to each other. But when he faced difficulties, I would help him as much as possible. That time, after drinking, he accidentally struck the son of a deputy minister of rights, breaking the boy's arm. The deputy minister immediately wrote a memorial directly to the emperor. The emperor was furious and sentenced him to 6 months of house arrest. Forced to stay home obediently, he was utterly frustrated. When I went out to attend a banquet, I pulled the deputy minister's wife aside for a heart-to-heart talk. Within days, the deputy minister withdrew his complaint against Li Jianin. On the day Li Jianin's confinement ended, he rushed to my study. I was packing the deeds for 2 shops into a box, instructing servants to deliver them to the deputy minister's residence. I am a prince. Those people dare not touch me. I glanced at him. True, they dare not touch you, but they will report to the emperor and confine you. Li Jianin was momentarily speechless. He awkwardly muttered a thank you and hurried away. Our relationship had eased somewhat. While we couldn't be called deeply in love or affectionate, we at least maintained a respectful distance. My first encounter with Shinqingi occurred at my family's jewelry shop. Madam, Miss Shinqingi from the Chancellor's residence has arrived. She seeks to discuss matters with you. The shopkeeper bowed respectfully. I set down my ledger and replied, show her in. Serve her a pot of fine tea. Yes, madam. The shopkeeper departed to carry out the order. Soon after, a woman of exquisite grace and beauty entered. Even though I'd seen many beauties, my breath caught slightly. Shinqingi was undeniably a beauty, her features exquisite, her bearing graceful, her aura sublime. Unforgettable at first sight. From lips like petals drifted a single sentence, I trouble the princess consort of you to keep a close watch on Prince Yu. Do not let him come before me to offer his attentions again. I picked up my brush to make a note in the ledger, replying casually. Miss Shin, you flatter me. I can't control what our prince chooses to do. If I had the time to manage him, I'd rather open a couple more shops to make money. Shin Qingyi didn't seem angered by my words. She took a leisurely sip of tea and placed an object on the table. I looked up to see a battle manual, worn and tattered from frequent use. What do you mean by this, Miss Shin? She bit her lip, seeming somewhat ashamed of having threatened me. Meng Shiyue, I need you to help me with something. In exchange, I will help you, she said. I want you to help me leave the capital. You must have heard about the Emperor and Prince Yu competing for me. I don't want to marry either of them. Help me escape, and I'll help you divorce Prince Yu. Humph. With just that one sentence, you expect me to offend the two most powerful figures in the court? Miss Shin, do you think I'm made of sterner stuff? My words were a bit harsh, and Shin Qingyi's face flushed instantly, adding a touch of pitiable charm. Alas, I'm not one to indulge such fragility. I merely watched her silently, urging her to reveal more bargaining chips. She seemed to summon great resolve, clenching her fists as her breath quickened. Finally, she sighed and shared a top-secret piece of information. After years of campaigns across the land, the court is severely short of military officers. The emperor and my father have deliberated for years and decided to establish a martial examination next year. The top martial scholar will be directly appointed as a fifth-rank general of cavalry. Qingsheng told me you possess exceptional martial skills. Though it's a pity you're a woman. If you can pass the martial examination and become the top scholar, I can persuade my father to allow you to retain your official rank despite your gender. Then you could lead troops in battle to defend our nation with full legitimacy. If you're willing to help me escape the capital and flee the open and covert struggles between these two brothers, I'll do everything in my power to assist you. The military examination, my heart raced at the thought. This information is incredibly valuable. Miss Shin, how would you like me to help you? I sipped tea leisurely in the palace's flower hall when Li Jianin bounded in. Beaming, he plopped down opposite me, his voice brimming with excitement. Meng Shiyue, Qingyi actually smiled at me today. I knew she had feelings for me. He roared with laughter, scheming to take another woman out for fun right before his legally wedded wife. I slammed my teacup down, the clang catching his attention. Is that so? Then congratulations, Your Highness. My tone was cold. He frowned, as if blaming me for spoiling his mood. Meng Shiyue, don't think that because you helped me a few times, I'll ever treat you like my wife. If you hadn't forced yourself upon me, I might have married Qingyi long ago. I clutched my handkerchief tightly, tears welling in my eyes, choking back sobs. I said, yes. I was presumptuous. Knowing full well you adore Miss Shin, I still petitioned the emperor to marry you. I deserve this. By the end, a single tear fell, covering my face with the handkerchief. I sniffled and left the flower hall. Li Jianin remained seated, staring blankly at the stool where I had sat. I wiped my tears and peeked around the corner to observe his reaction. Seeing him like this, I felt reassured. The day Shin Qingyi and I first met, we had already devised a plan to extricate me. I only needed to play the role of a devoted wife deeply in love with Li Jianin, while Shin Qingyi would offer him a glimmer of hope, slowly reeling him in. Following Shin Qingyi's instructions, I learned Li Jianin's daily routines and preferences from the mansion servants, then subtly and unobtrusively attended to his every need. Li Jianin enjoyed my attentions, occasionally praising my thoughtfulness when we met. Such things were familiar luxuries to him, hardly stirring any real emotion. Shin Qingyi, however, made astonishing progress. A single tender glance from her was enough to make him lose his soul to her, trailing after her daily. The world's greatest illusion is believing she is smitten with me. Perhaps because he hadn't received Shinchingi's affirmation for so long. My constant deference and humility began to soothe him. This prince, rumored to be utterly devoted to Shinchingi, actually stumbled into my room while drunk. My sleep was light. By the time he staggered to my bedside, I was already awake. Seeing me alert, a flushed smile spread across his face. "My lady, I've wronged you these past days. Tonight, I'll make up for it. This is your wedding night." I pressed my hand against his chest. "Weren't you madly in love with Shinchingi? Couldn't even keep yourself pure for her?" He grabbed my arm, slurring, "That woman Shinchingi. I did want to marry her. But all these years, she wouldn't even let me touch her hand. She made me forget there was a princess waiting for me in the palace." As he spoke, he began undressing, his belt about to come loose. My hand came down like a blade across his throat. He collapsed to the floor, snoring loudly. "Humph. Men." I kicked Li Jianin out the door, locked the windows and doors, and went back to sleep. The next day, the mansion was in chaos. Li Jianin had slept outside the door all night and caught a cold. To treat him, I specially summoned the imperial physician for a house call. The physician said his condition wasn't serious, but he needed rest and daily medicinal concoctions. As a dutiful wife, I spent 2 or 3 hours each day brewing his medicine, while ensuring it didn't affect the potency. I secretly added copious amounts of yellow gentian root to his medicinal pot. The physician's prescription stated the medicine must be taken 3 times daily. Each time I brought the medicine bowl to him, Li Jianin's frown deepened until his brows nearly knotted together. Yet I insisted on delivering every single dose without fail, refusing to leave until I saw him finish it. Within days, Li Jianin's face had turned almost green from the medicine, and he had visibly wasted away. As soon as his cold showed slight improvement, he dragged his sickly body to see Shinchingi. Seeing him in such a state, Shinchingi was heartbroken and immediately summoned a physician to examine him. By a remarkable coincidence, the physician Shinchingi invited was the very same one I had brought to the prince's mansion. He instantly recognized that Li Jianin's illness was far from cured and eagerly made his way to the chancellor's residence to offer his services. Outwardly, the physician said little, merely advising Li Jianin to rest well and take care of his health. Secretly, however, he added several herbs to Li Jianin's prescription, ones that wouldn't affect the efficacy but would certainly affect the taste. Thus, the medicine presented to Li Jianin became even more bitter. Shortly after the new year, I traveled to Yuanan Temple on the outskirts of the capital, taking the opportunity to pray for my parents' blessings. I met Shinchingi at the temple. "This is Saffron." I handed her a small box. "This is the household registration certificate. This girl has only a younger brother serving in the army. I've transferred her brother's registration to Shinqingchang. You can simply join our merchant caravan heading to Suoyue City." With both certificates laid on the table, Shinchingi took a deep breath before carefully putting them away. Her captivating eyes met mine, brimming with moisture. "Thank you." I tapped the tabletop and beckoned her closer. Shinchingi looked puzzled but obediently approached. Leaning close to her ear, I whispered, "You wish to fake your death to escape. Would your father consent?" Shinchingi's expression shifted. I lowered my head to sip tea, remaining silent. After a long silence, Shinchingi spoke slowly. "The fake death potion. It was my father who gave it to me." She clenched her fists tightly. "For years, the emperor and Prince Yu fought over me. My father didn't want me to marry into Prince Yu's mansion, fearing the emperor's covetousness. Nor did he want me to enter the palace and compete with the other consorts. It took him 5 years to purchase 2 pills of the fake death potion from a wandering Taoist priest. For one of the pills, Father paid a fortune to find a test subject. After feigning death for 7 days, that person came back to life. Over a year has passed now, and that person is still alive and well, full of vitality. He never told me about these efforts until the test succeeded. Only then did he give me the fake death potion, urging me to find an opportunity to leave the capital, rather than face the treacherous depths of the palace. My father valued my happiness above all. Your father truly cherishes you. I felt a pang of envy, inwardly cursing my own father who oppressed me daily. Xinqing covered her mouth and chuckled softly, but General Meng had you stationed at the frontier for a full 5 years, even appointing you as vanguard commander. What ordinary family would dare send their daughter to lead troops into battle? I envy you. This topic truly energized me, and I eagerly recounted my life in Suyue City to Xinqing. There were endless grasslands, lakes like jewels, and animals unseen in the central plains. Wolves that followed us while horseback hunting, trying to steal our prey, and plump rabbits that weren't afraid of people at all. The more I talked, the more I missed those days, missed my comrades, missed the people there, missed the carefree version of myself back then. A cool hand clasped mine. I looked up to find Xinqing gazing at me tenderly. She lifted a handkerchief to wipe the tears from my eyes, soothing me softly. It's all right. Once the military examination ends, you can return to Suyue City. She made no mention of the hardships and dangers ahead. We both knew that as long as the plan proceeded smoothly, we would both get what we desired. Li Jianin's illness gradually improved, yet he couldn't muster any joy. He wore a frown every day and was often nowhere to be seen. As for where he went, it was obvious. He must have been visiting the Prime Minister's residence. A letter Xinqing sent through an intermediary confirmed my suspicions. Not long ago, she had declared her feelings to Li Jianin. Li Jianin was overjoyed, lifting her up and spinning her around several times. Xinqing complained she was a bit breathless. Before Li Jianin could summon the imperial physician, she collapsed to the ground. After examining her, the physician declared Miss Shen suffers from a deficiency of qi in blood, compounded by excessive worry. She must rest quietly and recuperate properly, or her life could be in jeopardy. After regaining consciousness, Xinqing wept incessantly, refusing to speak. Li Jianin shook her shoulders frantically, demanding why she was so deeply troubled. Covering her eyes with a handkerchief, she sobbed uncontrollably. It was foolish of me to dream of becoming your consort. But now you have a lawful wife, I cannot shatter your family. My father is the chancellor, I could never marry you as a concubine. It's just that we weren't meant to be in this life. In the next, I'll marry you as your lawful wife. With that, Xinqing had Li Jinan escorted out of the chancellor's residence. No matter how he shouted outside, she refused to see him. Li Jinan summoned me to his study. Meng Shiyue, Yi has accepted my proposal. I intend to divorce you. As compensation, I'll give you a third share of the Wangfu shops and current silver. What do you say? My eyes widened in disbelief as I stared at him. Have I done something wrong? Li Jianin, preoccupied with thoughts of Xinqing weeping in sorrow, impatiently explained to me, you've done nothing wrong. But you've taken the position meant for my legitimate wife. Yi wishes to marry me legitimately, as my lawful wife. Kneeling on the ground, I wept, Your Highness. I know of your deep affection for Miss Shen, but by doing this, are you not trampling the honor of the valiant general's mansion and my father's reputation underfoot? I've been married to you for less than a year, yet I've managed the household inside and out with utmost diligence. If not merit, then surely there's some hard work to my name. You give me a divorce decree, what am I supposed to do now? What then? Li Jianin roared with fury. Was it not you who insisted on marrying this prince? What becomes of you hereafter is none of my concern. If you sign this divorce decree obediently, I may spare you some dignity. But if you choose to cling to this mansion, Know this, our ties are severed forever. We shall never meet again in this lifetime. Struck as if by lightning, I stared at the man before me, his face a mask of fury. My lips trembled. Fine. I'll sign. I'll sign. The divorce papers were in triplicate. I picked up the brush and signed my name, tears streaming down my face. Li Jianin didn't wait for the ink to dry. He snatched one copy and stormed out, wiping away my tears. I urgently summoned my maid. Quick! Deliver this divorce decree to the Ministry of Revenue, immediately. Everyone else, help me pack our belongings. We're returning to the general's residence. Li Jianin helped the pale Shinqingyi down from the carriage. She leaned limply against his arm, coughing softly from time to time, holding the divorce papers. I stepped out of the prince's mansion. Behind me lay the dowry that had once entered through this very gate with me. Look! I've divorced her. Once you've recovered, I'll arrange a grand wedding with 3 mediators, 6 betrothal gifts, and an 8-person palanquin to bring you home. Li Jianin excitedly envisioned our future bliss, completely oblivious to the exchange of glances between Shinqingyi and me. I dabbed at my eyes with a handkerchief dusted with chili powder, and tears streamed down my face. Meng Shuiwa wishes His Royal Highness and Miss Chen a swift union, filled with happiness and eternal harmony. The crowd erupted at this bombshell news. Within a single day, the news of the Yu prince and princess's divorce spread like wildfire through every street and alley of the capital, becoming the hottest topic of the day. The valiant general's mansion also sent numerous people to help me move my dowry. A magnificent procession of 10 miles of red wedding finery made its way from the prince's mansion back to my family home. On my first day back home, I declared I was suffering from excessive worry and closed my doors to visitors. Truth be told, I was at home counting money with my mother. In less than a year, leveraging the Yu prince's mansion's prestige, I'd netted 3 million taels of silver. Add to that the 50,000 taels Li Jianin gave me after the divorce settlement, plus 8 thriving shops. Made it! Made it! News of the upcoming martial examinations overshadowed my divorce from Li Jianin. The capital suddenly teemed with burly men and shrewd merchants who set up challenge platforms right outside their shops. They invited martial arts masters to spar, offering hefty rewards to anyone who successfully defended the platform. I trained relentlessly at home for 3 months, beating my guards into submission. Now, with so many worthy opponents to spar with, I left early and returned late every day, testing my skills against the top fighters. Within a single day, Jishur defeated 7 consecutive champions, propelling him to the top of the martial arts betting charts. A traveler from the frontier excitedly shared, "This Jishur is none other than the renowned young general from the borderlands. His martial prowess is unmatched. And he's a fierce warrior, though no one knows why he suddenly left the military. Now with this martial exam, where the top scholar gets an official post. I bet this young general came for that title." Hearing this, the bettors went wild, waving silver notes to raise their stakes. The bookmakers scrambled to adjust the odds. If Jishur really won the top scholar title, they'd be facing massive payouts. The martial exam was no easier than the imperial exams. Each prefecture and county conducts preliminary screenings, where illiterate candidates are typically eliminated outright. Only those truly exceptional in martial arts are specially recruited into the military examination selection teams. Someone like Jishur, who served as a soldier for several years and even held a command position, could directly participate in the capital's examinations. The exam content was extensive, devised by Ministry of War officials in consultation with generals. Beyond written tests on military strategy and military law, candidates were tested on horseback archery, archery on foot, spear techniques, sword play, hand-to-hand combat, and more. After a grueling fortnight of selection, I topped both written and martial tests, securing the title of martial champion. On the day of my investiture, I knelt on one knee before the assembled civil and military officials and declared in a clear voice, "Your Majesty, I beg your forgiveness for the crime of deceiving the throne." The emperor, seated high upon the dragon throne, asked, "What crime have you committed?" I drew the hairpin from my hair, and my long locks cascaded down. "I am Meng Shiriyue, daughter of the valiant General Meng Guan." The entire hall fell silent, then erupted like oil set ablaze. How dare a woman become martial champion? What a disgrace! Seize this woman! Deceiving the emperor warrants execution. The eunuch beside the emperor shrieked. Silence! Only then did the officials quiet. The emperor fixed his gaze on me, Meng Shiriyue. "Do you understand you have committed treason? This humble daughter acknowledges her crime. What say you, my ministers?" Li Jinyu tossed the hot potato to the assembled officials. Immediately, one stepped forward, bellowing, "A woman holding office is like a hen crowing at dawn. This act will surely disrupt military discipline and must be severely punished." The Ministry of War objected, "What harm is there in a woman holding office? This martial arts champion title was earned by Meng Shiriyue after defeating all contenders. She ranked first in both literary and martial arts examinations, a rare talent. Female generals have existed since ancient times. From Fu Hao of old to Meng Shiriyue today." Both factions argued vehemently, locked in heated debate. "Minister Shin, what is your opinion? Speak your mind." The emperor specifically called upon Minister Shin to speak frankly, and the other officials fell silent. Minister Shin approached me. "This old servant believes that this woman, having participated in the military examinations under a male identity, is guilty of deceiving the emperor. However, she truly earned the title of martial champion through genuine skill. This old servant has heard that all the examinees in this military examination deeply admire this martial champion. If we only punish her without acknowledging her achievements, this military examination would be a complete failure. Both punishment and reward are the best strategy." Minister Shin's words gave the emperor some insight. Minister Shin's words are reasonable. "Meng Shiriyue, you have committed the crime of deceiving the emperor and should be severely punished. Considering your wholehearted dedication to serving the country and your exceptional martial arts skills, your death sentence is commuted." I knelt on the ground. "Thank you for your Majesty's great kindness. The death sentence may be commuted, but the punishment for the crime remains. Meng Shiriyue, I sentence you to exile in the northern frontier town of Black City. Upon arrival, you shall receive the rank of 7th grade general and guard the border, protecting the people there for me." This guilty subject accepts the command. Black City in the far north lay over 800 li from Suyue City and more than 2,000 li from the capital. Heavy snow blocked the roads for half the year, making conditions exceptionally harsh. Though called exile, the escorting officers dared not act recklessly. After all, I bore only the title of exile. Upon arrival, I would become their superior officer. Moreover, Chancellor Shen and my mother had made arrangements to ensure my journey was comfortable. Adding to this, I hunted bandits and captured thieves wherever I went. Before we'd even reached halfway, they'd willingly accepted me as their leader. In Black City, I recruited troops, built roads, and eradicated banditry. Soon, I had won the respect of officers and soldiers alike in the garrison. A year later, the former magistrate of Black City was promoted to the south with a stellar record, while I rose to the rank of 5th grade general of the cavalry, restoring the military position I held when I left Suyue City. That year, many events unfolded in the capital. Xin Qingyi's health deteriorated rapidly. She frequently fell unconscious and even coughed up blood. No matter how many imperial physicians examined her, they all declared she was nearing the end of her life. Li Jianin paced frantically, scouring the realm for reclusive masters to treat her. It was all in vain. Xin Qingyi wasted away day by day, shrinking to skin stretched over bones. Her once beautiful face hung like a mask on a skeletal frame, a sight that chilled the blood. In the end, Qingqing passed away in Li Jiannen's arms. After a 3-day wake, the Xin family laid her to rest. Li Jiannen kept vigil before her coffin for 3 days and nights, watching as it was lowered into the earth. After that, he spent his days frequenting brothels and taverns, living a life of debauchery. Petitions accusing him of misconduct snowed down upon Li Jianyu's desk. Enraged, the emperor confined Li Jiannen to his residence and stripped him of his princely title. Knowing he had fallen from imperial favor, many of the spoiled nobles Li Jiannen had previously beaten now gathered daily at his mansion gates to mock him. Li Jiannen refused to leave his residence, spending his days within the prince's mansion, either drinking or losing his mind. At this point, someone suggested, "Your Highness, isn't Meng Shiyue deeply devoted to you? If you remarry her, with the valiant general as your backing, no one would dare bully you like this." Hearing this, Li Jiannen's eyes lit up. Right. There's still Meng Shiyue. When Qingqing arrived at Black City, I happened to be out leading troops in a bandit suppression campaign, where heads rolled in droves, carrying gold and silver looted from the bandit lair, along with a cart full of severed heads. I returned to Black City. There, I spotted Qingqing at once. She stood on the city gate tower, draped in a fox fur robe, waiting for me. In the bitter cold of the far north, her face and hands were frozen crimson as she stared straight at me. I swung down from my horse and ordered my deputy to lead it back to the barracks, rushing up the city gate in a few strides. I took her hands to warm them. "Why didn't you wait for me indoors in this freezing weather?" Feeling the warmth from my palm, Qingqing smiled. "I stayed in Suiyue City for half a year before Qingqing finally let me come out. He also asked me to bring you something." Hearing this, I froze. Years had passed since our last meeting, and I could barely recall Qingqing's face anymore. "How is he?" I asked. Qingqing pulled me into the room and handed me a letter. "You'll understand once you read it." Sitting on the Kong, I stared at the letter addressed to Meng Shiyue. For a moment, I couldn't tell whether I felt more longing or more sorrow. To Meng Shiyue, "May this letter bring you comfort as if we were meeting face to face. For years have passed since we last met, and I miss you dearly. I still remember those days when we galloped on horseback, whip in hand, drinking together until dawn. Now, as I drink with my elder sister, I realize the unspoken burdens you carried and regret it deeply. I know you stood firm in the imperial court, declaring your convictions. When the emperor's wrath was heard, even I trembled in fear. I cannot imagine what you must have felt then. I rejoice that you've achieved your wish, defending the frontier and protecting our homeland as a woman. Though 1,000 words fill my heart, none can be spoken. May you remain steadfast and unyielding. May you gather strength and unleash your brilliance. Sincerely, Qingqing." Qingqing propped her cheek with her white-gloved hand, asking curiously, "What did Qingqing say to you?" I folded the letter and tucked it into my robe. "He told me to guard Black City well and not let the Hu tribes invade." Isn't that obvious? After brushing off Qingqing, I asked her, "What are your plans for the future?" Qingqing sipped her tea. "I should travel and enjoy the scenery for a few decades. When I'm too old to walk, I'll find a place with mountains and rivers to live out the rest of my days in blissful freedom." I raised my teacup to clink with hers. "May your wishes come true." I'll take that as a good omen. On the day Qingqing left, soft snowflakes drifted down, settling in her jet-black hair. We embraced briefly. The chill from my armor made her shiver, and she playfully tapped my forehead in mock annoyance. A brazier warmed the carriage interior. Qingqing sat by the brazier and waved at me. "That's enough. No need to see me off. I'll write to you." Creak, creak. The carriage gradually faded into the distance. Riding my horse. I recalled 4 years ago, when I sat in that carriage. What must Qingqing have been thinking? A sudden blizzard trapped Li Jianin and his companions in a small town. Li Jianin leaned against the railing admiring the snow, sipping tea by the stove. Even confined to the inn, he intended to savor the moment. A carriage emerged from the mountains, its driver cloaked in straw, utterly indifferent to the snowflakes drifting down beside him. A slender, pale hand reached out from the carriage window, seemingly stung by the snowflakes, then quickly withdrew. Lost in the sight, Li Jianin felt warm arms wrap around him as a soft, sweet voice murmured in his ear. "What are you looking at, Your Highness?" Turning, Li Jianin drew the woman, bearing a striking resemblance to Qingyi, into his embrace. "Qingyi, where have you been?" The woman melted against him, her eyes glistening with tears. "I've been here all along. You were so lost in the view outside. Trying to make me jealous? I won't stand for it." By the time Li Jianin had soothed the delicate beauty in his arms and turned his gaze back to the window, the carriage had already passed the inn and was disappearing into the distance in another direction. Inside the carriage, Qingyi cursed silently. What rotten luck. Thankfully, the coachman was an old retainer of the Prime Minister's household and recognized Li Jianin at once. If the curtain had blown open and Li Jianin had seen her, everything she, Meng Shiyue, and her father had done would have been for naught. "Hurry! Hurry! Where's the pigeon? I need to write to Meng Shiyue." Clouds had dispersed, revealing a clear, gray-blue sky, not a cloud in sight. Seated in my command tent, I drafted a memorial to report the good news to the court: over 300 bandits eradicated. In these peaceful times, it counted as a major victory. Once this memorial reached the court, my soldiers would be promoted. My deputy commander burst in, kneeling on one knee. "General, a man claiming to be Prince Yu seeks an audience with you outside the camp." I'd already received Qingyi's carrier pigeon message and was prepared. But I hadn't expected Li Jianin to take half a month to cover the distance Qingyi's carriage had traversed in 3 days. "Oh, let him in. Take him to the council tent." "Yes, General." The deputy departed to carry out the order. I began rummaging through my belongings, searching for quite some time before finally retrieving my copy of the divorce decree from a storybook I had previously read. By the time I reached the council tent, Li Jianin had been waiting for half an hour. Entering, I immediately clasped my fists in salute. "I was unaware of Your Highness's arrival. My apologies for the delayed welcome. Having waited so long without seeing anyone." Li Jianin was seething with frustration at being kept waiting. He swallowed his anger, thinking he'd deal with Meng Shiyue properly once he married her. With this thought, a faint smile touched his lips. "It's nothing. You're a general now, busy with official duties. It's only right I wait for you." Unwarranted attentiveness, either treachery or theft. I sat down at the head of the table without showing any emotion and asked, "What brings Your Highness here today?" Unexpectedly, Li Jianin stood up, walked to me, and said softly, Yeah. After our divorce, I couldn't sleep at night or eat properly. It took me a long time to realize that you are the one I love. I know I hurt you deeply, and you have every right to blame me. But I truly don't want to lose you. Yeah. I swear, from this day forward, I will love only you. If you're willing to return to me, I'll agree to anything you ask. Will you? I gave a cold laugh and flung the divorce papers at his face. Li Jianin, you said we severed all ties and would never meet again in this lifetime, weren't those your words? He leaned in and took my hand. Yeah. I know I was wrong. I promise you'll be the only one in my heart from now on. Can you trust me just this once? Before Li Jianin could finish, a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Qingyi burst in, tears streaming down her face. She threw herself at Li Jianin's feet. Your Highness, where have you been? When I woke, you were gone. I thought you'd abandoned me. The soldiers trailing behind her knelt in shame, pleading for forgiveness. General. We beg your pardon. This woman appeared out of nowhere, insisting she must find your highness. We lost sight of her and she made her way here. 10 strokes of the cane for each of you. Withdraw. I watched Li Jianin coldly. His face was ashen, yet he couldn't bring himself to strike that face so similar to Shinqingyi's. He froze, unable to lift his gaze to meet mine. So this is the only one in my heart the prince spoke of? I'm afraid I can't bear such weight. Your highness. Please return. Attendants. Escort our guest out. 5 or 6 burly men surged into the tent, glaring at him menacingly. Li Jianin clutched Qingyi. His eyes red as he glared at me. Mengshuiyue. You'll regret this. I regarded him calmly. My future is none of your highness's concern. Escort him out. Li Jianin cursed his way onto the carriage bound for the capital. After he departed, I hurriedly summoned attendants to fetch pomelo leaves for a bath, to wash away the ill fortune. After over a decade of campaigns across the land, my unblemished record of 100 victories without a single defeat earned me the title of Marquis in General. The Emperor personally conferred upon me the titles of Marquis of Mingzhen and Loyal Marshal General, granting me the rank of first-class official. Wherever the banner bearing the character Meng flew, be it east, west, north, or south, all bandits retreated 3 encampments, daring not to act presumptuously. With me leading the charge, more and more women stepped out of their homes to study, learn to read, and train in martial arts to strengthen their bodies. At home, father and I raised our cups together. His hair was now entirely white, while mine held a few streaks of silver. Father lifted his cup to me. Yuer. I am proud to have such an outstanding daughter. I clinked glasses with him, laughing. General, you flatter me. How could I compare to you? You unfilial daughter. Always teasing your father. Father slapped the table, grumbling he'd make me pay. Meng Shijing rushed in, finding us both tipsy. He helplessly called for helpers to carry me back to my boudoir, then supported father back to the main hall. My younger brother Meng Shijing had grown into an outstanding young man. He trained in martial arts day and night, just as I had done in my youth. When I asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up, his eyes sparkled as he looked at me. I want to be just like father and sister, a great general who stands tall and proud. I smiled and ruffled his hair. Good. That's the spirit. Train hard, and one day you'll be just like me, a great general. The end.